Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to Chill with Phil, a late night chill stream where I'm just hanging out with my live audience. This is what people had voted they wanted to see tonight rather than gameplay, and I said, much obliged, I'll do it. If you guys really just want to hang out and talk, I'm totally okay with that. So let's just go ahead and continue on and see what people want to talk about. I do want to say shout out to Dime, who did a super chat and said, hey, shout out, thanks for the content from New Zealand. Thank you to Dime for that super chat. And everyone else so far who has contributed tonight to the stream, I really appreciate that. Thank you all so very much for that. And let's continue on. All right, so let's see here. Klein says, did you go to wrestling shows in the 90s when business was booming? No, I only went to 3 live wrestling shows in my whole life. The first one was a SmackDown show in the early 2000s, which was at a Bridgeport arena where I used to live, Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I can't remember. Oh, I remember. It was the episode where Kurt Angle climbed the cage because Brock Lesnar had Paul Heyman inside the steel cage and was beating the crap out of him. So Kurt Angle had to climb the cage to get in and save him. But the scene was completely botched and screwed up. So at first the scene was he was supposed to break into the cage, but they couldn't get the thing to work. So he's like trying to cut the lock and the lock wouldn't open. He kept trying for like 5 minutes. They couldn't get it to work. So eventually they told him, forget it. Forget that scene. Scrap it. Just climb in instead. So he did. This is before that SmackDown was live on TV. It was a recorded show. So they basically refilmed the scene like 3-4 times to get it to work, which was pretty funny. The other one I saw was one of the Raw anniversary shows. And it was one where RVD hadn't been with the company for a while, but they brought him back. So he came back for the anniversary at one of the Raw shows. I remember that particularly. And the only other wrestling show I ever saw was 2012. It was WrestleMania 2012. And I went to only time I ever went to WrestleMania with John Rambo. It was well documented. We had vlogs all over the place. We've already talked about the trip, and it was cool. Let me put it this way: even though it was incredibly expensive, it was cool to at least say, "Hey, I did it once." Just like I went to E3 once. I was like, "Okay, it was cool just to do it once, right?" But it's definitely not worth it. It's way too expensive. It's not that much of a better experience in person than it is just to watch it on TV. Honestly, notably that year, it was the debut match of The Shield, like the first WrestleMania match The Shield was ever in. And also there was CM Punk versus The Undertaker was one of the headliner matches that year. So those are probably the better matches that I liked. So, okay. I received a $4 tip from Super Snow Carl Turbo HD Remix. I heard you want to talk politics or have your own political channel. If you think tips are good now, wait until you see what happens when you give people what they want to hear politically. I know you'll have new trolls too if you piss someone off the wrong way with politics. I mean, it's kind of how it goes with everything in life, right? Like, the door swings both ways. There's always potential for benefit, but there's also potential for worse in another realm. The way I see it, though, people already hate me so much for literal nonsensical reasons, right? That maybe it makes more sense to do to do stuff, and then if you hate me because you don't like my political stuff, at least that's maybe I don't know. I still think it's a legit reason. Maybe it's more of a reason than to just dislike me for the stupid reasons that people say today, right? That aren't even, half of them aren't even true, right? So, I don't know. Okay. So, Kappa says, I don't know if you've touched upon this. What site do you prefer better between Twitch and YouTube? I feel like YouTube has more abusable exploits than Twitch, like the membership one. False. Twitch literally is a site that at a moment's notice will, without a check, without a balance, without any kind of a warning system, they will punish you for things you didn't even do, and then they fix it after the fact. Okay? That's just how they are. That's 100%. That is exactly how they are. Now, the reason you don't hear about this all the time on Twitch is because the biggest Twitch streamers have so many fans that protect them, right? But for a normal person on Twitch, at any moment's notice, they could just flip a switch and shut you down and then investigate after the fact, which is ridiculous. Twitch also doesn't feel the need to ever give you a warning or escalate at all. Instead, it's just outright punishment. And then you have to fix it after the fact if it's a mistake. And by the way, they don't ever have to even tell you. If they don't like you for some reason, and they don't even have to disclose the reason. If you ask, well, I don't understand what's going on. Can I have more information? Can you tell me what's really happened? What went wrong? They don't tell you anything. They don't have to. They literally say they don't have to tell you anything. So, that's my experience. I was on Twitch for how many years? I started full-time streaming again late 2016. I was there till spring of 2021. So you're talking almost 5 straight years. I had a giant viewer base, tons of paid subscribers. And then they just one day in the middle of a stream say, you're out of the partner program. What happened? They didn't warn me. There was no escalation. It wasn't like strike 1, strike 2, strike 3. It was just, you're just gone. Well, what happened? Oh, well, we think that you said some hateful language or something like that. Hateful language. Okay, can you explain what that means? Can you cite examples? Can you tell me anything? No. But in a year, you can reapply for the partner program if you'd like to. Okay, well, fuck you. I'm done. I'm done with your site, right? And even then, that wasn't even the case. I said, I'll try to tough it out, and I'll stick around and try to just survive on tips. And within a month, they had suspended my channel, saying that I had said a racist thing when I never did. When I called them on it and said, I never said it, you're lying, they fixed it and apologized to me. And I said, I don't want to be here anymore. So at any moment, you can decide that you don't like me. Tell me I did something wrong. When I ask you, what did I do wrong? Give me evidence so I can improve or not do it again. They say, we don't have to tell you anything but reapply in a year. And then you again erroneously suspend my channel for something I didn't do. That's Twitch in a nutshell. They will do whatever they want. They're completely unprofessional. Most of the sites run by moderators that aren't even paid employees. Did you know that? You probably didn't. There's a lot of people who do that moderation who are just volunteers. So it's trash. It really is. And the only reason it's really prominent is because no one has really been able to compete with them because they are owned by Amazon, but they are failing. Take a look at Twitch right now. They are absolutely failing, okay? They've made so many mistakes, so many squandered opportunities. It's a terrible site. I mean, I could sit here all day ranting about Twitch. Now, does YouTube have problems? Yes. YouTube has tons of problems. But YouTube has made efforts to get better. They do have some checks and balances in place. They're not absolutely destroying you. Like, they're not just going to shut down your channel or business instantly. They're going to have a series of things that happen that get escalated to get to that point. You see the difference? And then you have a chance to maybe fix them in the middle. Still a shitty system. False takedowns with DMCA and stuff is rampant on YouTube, which is really, really bad. Yes, I've heard very bad stories about political stuff. Oh, you say something that doesn't agree with YouTube's ideology on politics. They'll say that you said something harmful. They'll demonetize you. I've heard all the horror stories. But apples to apples comparison, my experience with YouTube has always been much better than the few times that I tried to deal with Twitch. They're more professional about it. I can usually get some semblance of an answer or help on stuff. And essentially, the way I see it, I have more of an opportunity to be a professional creator on YouTube than I do on Twitch. On Twitch, I can never take it seriously because at any moment you rub someone the wrong way, you're gone. Keep in mind, Twitch had no issue with me for 5 years and then all of a sudden removes me from a partner program but won't tell me what I did wrong. Literally will not say, here's the reason why we did this. So if you don't tell me what I did wrong, how can I ever get better, right? So to hell with them, you know? Definitely YouTube is a better situation than Twitch. Twitch is definitely in a downward spiral right now with the choices they made, the horrible things they've done with creators, payouts, all of that crap. So let them continue to go like this down the drain, right? And again, I realize there's no discoverability here on YouTube, but I'm happy with the amount of people I have, and sadly, my stuff already gets echoed because of others, so I really don't need the exposure I would get on Twitch. I never really benefited from exposure on Twitch when I was over there regardless. You know what I'm saying? Kappa, I have no idea what you're even talking about. He says, when you were on Twitch, it was a very while, you had a long while with little problems. Ever since you came back to YouTube, it's been problem after problem. I don't even know what you mean by that. No, it hasn't been problem after problem. It hasn't been. I don't know what you're talking about at all. Very rarely do we have problem after problem on YouTube. Usually it's, okay, something happens, you deal with it, you move on, it's not even a big deal, right? There's been very few times where it's been like a big problem that's insurmountable and we can't deal with. You know, I've never been removed from YouTube's partner program, right? I have content on this website spanning back to 2008. I'm still okay on YouTube, but for some reason, I'm too risque for Twitch, right? Doesn't even make any sense. I'm not even a risque guy. I don't say anything risque. They don't know what they're talking about. You know, again, I already told you guys what happened on Twitch. I've already explained. It's the same thing that happened with Teespring. It's the same thing that happened with the sites that let you do pop-ups on your streams automated. It's these idiots who hate me made a montage of hateful content about me, showing stuff from way back in the day, right? We're talking over 10 years ago. They made a montage of those clips, And then they packaged it together as if here's the worst of Darkside Phil. And then they showed, oh, he used to be known as the King of Hate. He's a website called that. All this shit, right? So they used that and weaponized it against me to misrepresent me to these businesses. And these businesses looked at it and said, well, here's the thing. We don't actually have a problem with Phil, but if we're going to have a hate group actively complaining about him, we can't have that negative stigma. We can't have people harassing our social media. Take a look at a couple times. Twitch actually did this. Listen to this. Twitch put me into a montage on Twitter. It'll be like, so here's people who were playing this game and had a good time, or here's a funny moment, how they reacted to it. They would put me into the montage, and then a bunch of my haters would tweet, why you have Darkside Phil in there? He's a jerk. He's this, he's that. And then they would just edit me out of the montage. Took me out. Re-upload it without me in it. What? Why do you give attention to haters? Just think about that. You're a giant corporation. You are immune to them. You can ignore them. But instead, you give them attention. All you do is empower them when you do that. And they have done that again and again and again over there. And it's pathetic the way that they act. Again, it's completely unprofessional the way that they act as a company. So, because of that, that's why I'm not on Twitch anymore. Because they just give into that shit. Much like a lot of these other companies. You got to keep in mind, a lot of them are run, again, by ultra-liberals. They're very leftist in their thinking, and the people who run these companies. So, like, oh my God, we got someone who used to say these things on YouTube that today are cancelable, and he got a hate mob following him around. We can't be associated with that, so let's just get him out of our partner program. Have I done anything like that in the last 10 years? No, but that's okay. Just get rid of him anyway, because people finally complained about it, right? It's like, what are you? You're insane, right? That's why I'm not dealing with those kind of companies, you know? I'm not. I was off a year on WrestleMania. No big deal. It's just semantics. No one really cares what year I was at WrestleMania. Okay. All right. Let's have some new topics, please, because people just keep rehashing the same topics over and over. Can we have some new topics to talk about? Obviously, I don't want to talk about the same stuff over and over, right? We already had enough talk about fucking drama and Destiny and trolls. Can we move on to other topics now? It would be great. I don't know what you mean by that. Vietnamese comrade said it's sad we'll never get to see you play Call of Duty 1, 2, and 3 for the internet. Would have been a good alternative to annual Call of Duty playthroughs as the new Call of Duty comes out as bad as it has been. You mean the originals? Like the ones on PC? Those were great games. Call of Duty 1 and 2 were really good on PC. And I played them on PC back in the day. Call of Duty 2 particularly. Knocked it out of the park. I remember some of the maps for that game. How good it was. The freaking dam and stuff like that. Yeah, it's sad that those games are lost to time. Like, no one seems to want to play old school shooters anymore. Everyone wants modern warfare, future warfare, this warfare. No one wants, like, what FPS games started as anymore. I guess people felt that it was it's too primitive now. But they were super good games in, like, the 2000s. I'm not a car guy. I don't have any favorite cars. I don't care. Other than Dragon's Dogma 2, obviously you got Rise of Ronin. And obviously Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but I have to look at the game release schedule for the rest of the year to try to update the dates and things that things are coming out. I haven't looked at it in ages, so I couldn't tell you what other games are excited for because I don't even know what's coming out. Carlos says, I just played Singularity, that game from way back in the day that I have the Back in Time remix that I used to play on my streams. He said, I had a blast. Most FPS games now feel uninspired and they're just focused on selling shit online. You're absolutely correct. 1,000,000% yes. You're right. FPS games went from having quality content, good narrative, revolutionary gameplay to how do we do an online one that just has a lot of microtransactions? Make it games as a service. 1,000,000% you're dead on correct there. It's a shame because FPSs in a lot of cases used to be great narrative experiences and now they're not anymore, right? They're not. It's just go on and just shoot shit, spend money on fucking skins and shit, right? Yes, Slayer, I can see your messages. Will I be getting a PS5 Pro? There's absolutely no concrete information on PS5 Pro. It's an industry rumor. Until you have information on it, I don't give two fucks about it, and I'm not talking about it. Can I play older games from PS2 era? If there's a way to do that. Currently, I don't have a working PS3. There's no way to buy them on PS5. I do have a mini PC, but we haven't done anything with it in ages. I don't even know if the emulation on there would be legal. So there you have it. What do I dislike about Destiny 2? No, it's not that there's anything horribly wrong with Destiny 2 or Destiny 1. They're just not good games, in my opinion. You know, as someone who had played the Halo games before, and then I was, everyone, oh, Destiny's gonna revolutionize gaming. Do you remember the ad campaign for Destiny? That's what it said. It was like, it changes the face of gaming forever. It will, like, revolutionize gaming. That was their ad campaign. What the fuck in Destiny 1 did that? What are you talking about? Destiny 1 is Halo with a different skin, co-op with people online. It's the same fucking game. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's Halo with Borderlands included in it. It's the same shit, right? So, why on earth would you say that's something revolutionary? It wasn't revolutionary at all. What it was big budget and tons of marketing. So because of that, everyone bought it and played it co-op, but it wasn't anything special. It really wasn't. It was boring to me. I didn't enjoy it that much. And then Destiny 2 came out. It was the same fucking game with a few tweaks. Yeah, and I even played Destiny 2 co-op just for the sake of it. Because Destiny 1, right, I didn't play full co-op. And people were like, you didn't play it right. You didn't experience it the way it was intended. I said, all right, Destiny 2, I'll do that. And I did. I played the whole game co-op. Nah. You know what I mean? Is there an actual large group of people who like that style of game? Yes, there is. The same people who play The Division, right? The same people who play these other games. Apex Legends, it became Battle Royale, same formula, Battle Royale instead, right? So there's definitely a giant market, but it's not revolutionary. It adds nothing to gaming whatsoever at all. And what happens is it now weakens the pool. We were just talking about what happened to the narrative-based games out there that were worth a shit. They don't exist anymore because these companies don't care about a good narrative anymore. They care about printing money. So make the game that's the fast, quick buck game and just ad nauseum continues itself with updates, DLCs, patches, raids, different maps, different new character released, different loadout. But it's the same fucking loop of gameplay over and over and over. It's fucking boring. What makes those games fun is not the game, it's the social interaction you have when playing the game. Destiny 1 and 2 are not great games. The social interaction and fun you have playing Destiny 1 and 2 with your friends is what makes it a great experience. If you play those games by yourself, it's fucking boring. So how can a game played by yourself be boring, but only if your friends are involved be good? Think about that for a second. What's the added factor that made it good? Your friends. Not the game, your friends. The game doesn't hold up in face value. So that's the problem. Why are we making these games so prominent and popular? Why are they making so much money when they're not good games? They're just meh, right? It's a bad move for the industry. These kind of games. We've really hurt the games industry tons in the last 5 to 10 years by giving time and effort towards those games. Again, GTA Online. Tell me right now, in the last 10 years that GTA Online existed, what was that absolute cannot miss experience that I missed out on not playing GTA Online? Can anyone explain that to me in chat? And if you could, please by all means do. Tag me in chat and tell me what did I miss by skipping GTA Online? Because I only played at launch, which was a joke, and then I played the first heist, which admittedly was alright, and then I never went back to it ever again. So what did I miss? I played everything else, but I skipped GTA Online, right? So every time I ask that question, some people will be like, oh, well, when I did a heist with my friends, or when I did races with my friends, and the nights hangouts with my friends, that's the answer you hear. You never hear, oh, this groundbreaking, revolutionary experience that happened while I was playing GTA Online, because it doesn't exist. It was always about, oh, my friends and I became a part of a role-playing community, and that, you know what I mean? I get that, but you understand that's not the game. Guess what the most profitable game of the last decade was? GTA Online. Why? Because people fell for it. It's a trick. It's not anything that was meant to be groundbreaking. It's not anything that was meant to be revolutionary. Did it add anything really to the cultural experience of video games at all? No, in fact, what it did is it set games back. They actually canceled meaningful DLCs and plots and stories they had planned for GTA 5 and either never released them or screwed them up so they could wedge them in as another expansion for GTA Online, like that whole Franklin expansion that everyone was like, dude, this would have been so good if it was real story instead of just a GTA Online side mission, right? But that's the point I'm making here. We've taken in the last 10 years games that used to have meaning, games that used to have cultural significance, that used to be standalone experiences that were revolutionary, blow you away. I'll never forget that, to every day I boost up my game. I do exactly the same button pushing with my friends, and I joke with my friends, and I sink more money into it. It's a trick. It's a trap. It was set up intentionally by Rockstar and all these other companies. Bungie, they did it on purpose. And you all fell for it. If you spent significant money on those games in the last 10 years, you fell for their trap, their trick. Now, every company wants to put out these games, right? You know what I mean? Every company wants one of those. And that's sad because that's a direct result of us sinking money into Destiny, into The Division, into fucking GTA Online. Now everyone wants to be like that. And now we can't get good games anymore. Now we got Suicide Squad from Rocksteady that was supposed to be a great game like the Batman Arkham Trilogy. And instead it's a dog shit game that you can tell is supposed to be games as a service and no one wants it, right? Skull and fucking Bones. Are you shitting me? Skull and Bones is a modern quadruple A video game, according to Yves Guillemot. It's not quadruple A. It's a negative quadruple A. You should pay me to play that piece of shit, because it's a stinker turd, and the fact that you even released it and charged money for it is an atrocity. But that's the modern state of gaming, right? Anyway, there you go. I answered your question. All right. Now, some people in chat are saying, well, I'm misunderstanding GTA Online. Fine. If that is the case, then I want to be corrected and told why. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to know what I missed. Because every time I ask, I never get an explanation like, oh, so there was this actual giant cool story arc that happened with this narrative, and it was really cool, and it was like, you know what I mean? Here's what I get told. Yeah, so there was a Franklin expansion that really would have been cool if it was part of GTA 5, but instead they really, you could tell it. They cut corners, they cut content out, they wedged it in to make it part of GTA Online. Most people don't even care about the story elements. It's not a big deal. That's what I hear. And then I hear, what's the best part of GTA Online? The heist with friends, racking up money to have your own crib and cars and shit, meaningless, and role-playing. Pretending to be someone that you're not in an online environment, social atmosphere. I get that. Things like that have been popular forever. You got your Second Lives. You got your friggin', they used to have the friggin', the PS, whatever it was, PS Home, right? MMOs have that constantly. Virtual communities, role-playing, and I understand that aspect of it. Been there, done that. GTA Online did not revolutionize that at all. So why the hell is that the biggest money-making game of all time? Honestly. Right? The Nick Rules says, personally, I like GTA Online. It has a lot of content like new vehicles, races, missions, heist, weapons. Literally what I just said. Meaningless. I can see some of your points, though. I never bought any DLC or shark cards. So then you're not one of them. You're not one of the people who made it the most profitable game of all time. You're actually not in line with what's the common experience with GTA Online. The average person who bought that ended up buying it, rebuying it, rebuying it. Every time there was a new version, they bought it for the new console, and then they sunk more money into it. That's why it's the most profitable thing ever. It's ridiculous. Matthew, what you're saying is absolutely ridiculous. I'm married happily. He says, do you think friends are necessary for a happy life? Because I watch clips of you and John Rambo. It makes me sad. I have the best friend I'll ever have in my life. She's called my wife. I already have that. I have a meaningful relationship with someone I love and I spend time with all the time. You don't have to worry about me. Just because it's not on camera like it used to be with the friendship with John, right? Just because that relationship isn't on camera doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I have more than that relationship now with my wife. She's, the best person I'll ever spend time with for the rest of my life. I'm not lonely at all. At all. You know what I mean? I just don't understand what you're talking about because people are like, oh, you don't have any friends. I don't have time for friends. I work 6 days a week full time and I'm married. That's my life. That's the choice I made, and I like that life. I'm happy with that. Don't feel bad for me. Feel bad for people who don't understand that that's a full, meaningful life. Really. Because if you don't think that's a full, meaningful life, I feel bad for you. If you feel like you need to have every moment you're talking to a friend and you have interaction with someone else, that's kind of silly, you know? Okay. I don't own any anime, Vietnamese comrade. Where do people get these weird notions? He just said, just listen to what he said. Now that you don't care about anime anymore, would you consider giving away anime that you own to people? What are you talking about? What anime do I own? I don't even know what he's talking about. Were you in my house? Were you going through my stuff? Do you think I have a collection of anime? I don't even have an anime collection. What? People actually said it earlier tonight. Are you ever going to sell the statues? The fucking statues? The statues from Connecticut? From 10 years ago? What are you talking about? Like, the statues. What? They're long gone. They've been gone for so many years. Out of my life, they were either sold or they went away, you know, and behind the scenes at one point, you know, you gotta understand. It's 2024, right? I don't have a statue collection sitting around in my house. Like, what on earth are you talking about? Slayer says maybe he thinks that you have the anime DVDs like Attack on Titan I watched a long time ago. I sold those ages ago. I even talked about it years ago that we went through the collection, the DVD collection I had, and we went to one of those, you know, used DVD, used bookstores, and I traded it in, and I got a few $100 for it all. I don't have any real physical DVDs in the house outside of Christmas stuff. Like, we have Christmas DVDs that we save to maybe watch every year. And there may be a few holdovers in like a closet across the hallway. But that's it. People have these weird notions that I like have a house full of goods sitting around that I'm hoarding. What are you talking about? I don't have... What? These weird questions. Oh, excuse me. Too many... Now things are all scrolling off the screen, right? Hold on. Oh, cool. Hidalgo says the first content I ever saw from you was your Mass Effect 1 upload. You began part 1 recounting the Conan O'Brien documentary where he's outed from NBC. It's not about looking back at the end of his career. It's about him surviving after being overwhelmed by an impersonal force, one that was normalized because others didn't survive it. In a way, it's a documentary about how the broadcasting industry goes on to evolve in part because he survived and shined a light on how malignant and a hive-minded it is. Yeah, I don't know what the heck that has to do with me or why we're talking about that tonight, but I agree with you. I mean, Conan O'Brien was treated absolutely horribly by the broadcast industry. Thankfully, he did go on to TBS to have a long run there until he decided to retire from that night show. But I don't know what that has to do with me. No, I never considered joining the medical field. That was the last thing from my mind. Are we running out of questions or something? These are the weirdest things I've ever seen. Like, what are we talking about right now? People are asking me about my DVD collection that I don't have. They're talking about the Conan O'Brien documentary from my Mass Effect 1 playthrough over a decade ago and asking me if I want to be a doctor. Like, huh? Where are we gone with this line of questioning right now? I'm a little confused. I'm going to be honest. I'm very confused with what's happening here. Carlos says, if you have the mini PC, could you consider playing older FPS games? Like, hold on. Like Singularity, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and old Call of Duties. I mean, again, I don't know the viability of that whatsoever. I have the mini PC. You guys know what it is. We talked about it last year. I played Chrono Trigger on it, and it was always a possibility to do stuff on it. It just seems like there hasn't been a lull yet. Like, we had this crazy streak of games in the fall, correct? That's number one. And then we had a situation where we found longer games you guys wanted me to play, like Baldur's Gate 3, So we've been doing that. We haven't really been looking for, oh, let's look for filler content to do, and let's pull out the mini PC to do it. The one thing we thought about was Fightcade, playing old school fighting games, but we decided against that because it would have been too rushed, and then basically dropped to play Tekken 8. So I'm glad I didn't do that. I think that actually would have been felt like a real waste of time and a squandered opportunity there. But outside of that, if people ever want to see me do stuff in the future when we have time for it, in between all these other releases I'm playing, like downtime stuff, I'm down for that, for sure. But it just seems like right now we don't have any time in this regard to be doing that kinds of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, sadly, it's dumb like that. So many games are too long. I've been saying this recently. The games are too long. Why is Baldur's Gate 3 140 hours long? Right? Every game that I play, why do I have to play it for 4 months? It's annoying. And I played the shit out of Baldur's Gate 3. You can't even complain. I play it 3-4 times a week, and I'm still almost like 90 hours in, and we're still not even at the end yet. It's like these games are too fucking long. I can't get through them, and then we don't have time to do other things, and then people get tired of it, right? So there you go. Let's see here. All right, Hidalgo, thank you. I see what you're saying, but we're kind of off that topic now, so I had no idea what you were talking about, and now I understand what you're saying. Okay. No, I'm not planning any trips. I don't have any trips going on or anything like that whatsoever. I can't. I'm working. Then now is not the time to be planning trips with the games coming out. No. I wouldn't know anything about the new generation of kids. I don't really have too much interaction with the younger generation at this point, right? I don't. I'm isolated from them. My viewership is not kids. I would, if you look at the statistics on YouTube and everything, my viewership is not children or teenagers for that matter. It's adults, people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. So because of that, I wouldn't know about a younger generation, how they're acting in school. You're asking completely the wrong person about that. I don't know anything about it. Completely false. Tekken 8 Akuma says, if you played Baldur's Gate 3 when everyone asked for it, you would have finished it before the fall season, most likely. Wait, what? You would have finished it before the fall season, most likely during the summer lull when everything was boring. It didn't come out until late August. What are you talking about? Even if I had played it when it was brand new, and if it was the only game I played for a month, I still wouldn't have beaten it. That's how long it is. And then I wouldn't have, if I have to remember something, September is when all of these big games started coming out, including Lies of P, one of the hottest games of the year. If I had started playing Baldur's Gate 3 on release, literally I would have played it for like 2 weeks, and then immediately been distracted by other games and played it less and less, and then eventually not been able to play it enough to follow and keep with the narrative, and it would have failed. Why has Baldur's Gate 3 worked right now as a playthrough? Because I started playing it in December, correct? And when I started playing it in December, there was nothing else out to compete. So I played it all through December, all through January. Now, new games came out like Tekken 8 and Like a Dragon, but I'm balancing those still with Baldur's Gate. It's still the focus. The only reason we're like 90 parts in a month and a half to 2 months later is because I've literally made it my focus, because now is the time to do that. There was no way I could have done that when it came out. First of all, it came out in August on PC. I didn't have a way to play it then. I had to play it on console like I'm doing. So really, I couldn't have even played it till September, when there was already a million other games out. So your entire thing you said is completely false. There's no way, even if I played it in September, I would still be playing it now if I started playing it in September, without having the focus that I've had, and it wouldn't have been nearly as fun of an experience because it would have been broken up and balanced with so many other games. Have a good night, Cracker Jacks. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out tonight. You know, I don't know if I will or not, Kathleen. She says, are you going to play the Sonic Generations remaster in the fall? I'm interested in it because now they've added Shadow the Hedgehog, which is neat that they did that, and it looks like it'll have new levels. I liked Sonic Generations when I played it. I thought it was a swell game. From a lot of people are saying, it doesn't look like this remaster is really a remaster. It looks exactly the same as the original, pretty much. Because the original ran smoothly back then, even on Xbox 360 or PS3. So does it really need a remaster? Right? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just, they're just arbitrarily re-releasing the game on a modern console so more people will buy it, but by adding in some new shadow levels, that gives it the appeal to make it feel like it's new when it really isn't. I would be interested in it. At the least, if you guys are interested in it, I would consider it. But I'm not going to commit to it either. I want to kind of wait and see if there is interest in it or not by the time that the fall comes along. It also is going to depend, obviously, on probably a lot of other games that are out at the time. Like, do I want to stick it into the schedule, or is it going to actually take away time from genuine new releases, not ones that are re-released that I'm playing again, right? Would I consider a Dell laptop if my Acer broke? I mean, I don't really know much about laptops these days. I don't really think that, for what I'm using a laptop for, I don't really think it matters what brand I use. Like, literally, all I'm using my laptop for is monitoring stream chat, monitoring contributions, right? Every once in a while, reading a forum post, playing an animation. It's the most basic use you can use a laptop for. It's not even using probably like half the memory. In fact, I'm really curious. If I hit Control-Alt-Delete on this sucker, right? Where the fuck's the delete button? Actually, I don't even know where delete is on this laptop. I don't think I've ever used it. Holy crap. There it is. So I hit Control-Alt-Delete. I go to Task Manager, right? It says I'm using 11% of the CPU. That's it. 11%. And 1% of my disk, because I'm not even saving anything to it. We know what's being used is the memory. And the reason it's using a lot of memory, I have 3 browsers open on this sucker. One for DSPGaming, one for DSP Reacts, and one for DSP Throwback. And each one is set up individually. So when I want to do a stream, I can just jump into the new browser. It's already ready to go. I don't have to reset everything up from scratch. So that's awesome. So that's why it's 60% memory. It's basically 20% of my memory on each browser, right? That's what it looks like. So, but anyway, yeah, I think any laptop, it doesn't matter, Dell, any company would work because I'm doing the most basic thing possible. I don't do anything, you know, crazy or anything over the top or that needs a great laptop to do. I am recording this. Oh, I don't use my laptop to record. All recording is done on my desktop over here. Yeah, you're thinking, you must be misunderstanding. You think I record on my laptop? Oh, no. The laptop is meant solely for the monitoring of the streams and doing things like that on stream interaction. That's it. That's all that's done. Over here on my desktop, that's where it's streaming, capturing, and everything is taking place over there. Okay, Derek, have a good night. See you tomorrow. I didn't even know you were here, actually. See you tomorrow. By the way, I think the skunk finally gone. For those who don't know, during the break between these parts, I had to go get heavy-duty Febreze and spray it because it smelled awful. A skunk must have been outside and sprayed it like the yard out there, and it came right into my window. I was like, oh my god, it was so strong and overpowering. So I ran and got this, but I don't smell it anymore. So I guess it must have dissipated. Lloyd Davies says you can use an iPad for that too. You know, ages ago, I had an iPad, and I tried doing it, and I just didn't like it because a lot of the things don't run well on iPad. At least they didn't back then. You're talking a decade ago. That's when I had my iPad, like 2012, right? Or more like 2013-ish, because I got it, and then I moved here, so probably around 2013-ish is when I got it. Yeah, a lot of the apps and stuff didn't run well on it, and it wasn't easy to do things like moderate and stuff on it, so I never used it. Even though I had it and I intended I was going to use it for that stuff, I ended up never doing it. I just used the laptop. Oh, you don't have skunks in Singapore, Slayer? No, they're very prominent out here in the United States, skunks. The thing is, usually you don't even see them. They're more very nocturnal, keep to themselves animals, so you would never see them. But, you know, every once in a while you agitate one or you scare one and it spritzes, and then it's like, oh boy, that's bad. Matthew Reed, I've already answered this question many times, but if you really want me to answer again, he says, are there other people who inspired you besides Howard Stern and the Angry Video Game Nerd? As I said, back in the day, I was a fan of Howard Stern, and some of that inspired me. I would also say things like South Park, Mel Brooks, many comedians from the 1980s and 90s. You know, the humor of Harold Ramis, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, that kind of stuff, all kind of inspires where a lot of my humor comes from back in the day. And then when I was getting to the age where I had that office job, and I hurt my back. So basically, I wasn't a competitive Street Fighter player anymore. That's when I started heavily watching like internet content, and I started watching Angry Video Game Nerd, his early days, his first few years, and then Nostalgia Critic. Those are the two guys who I saw. I was like, wait, so you're telling me these guys have no budget? You can tell they didn't have any production budget. They're filming in their houses, right? Yet they're putting out funny videos that are entertaining to watch, and they're getting tons of attention on the internet. They're getting views. They're starting their own websites. Like Nostalgia Critic had thatguywiththeglasses.com at the time. Angry Video Game Nerd got signed with Screw Attack, and then subsequently GameTrailers.com was putting all of his content up regularly, and he was getting tons of views and everything. I was like, wow. People with no production value whatsoever can actually make high-end content that people enjoy. And that's when I saw YouTube. I was like, I guess that's the point of YouTube, right? You don't have a budget, but you can still broadcast yourself to the world, and if you have talent, people will notice you, and you get popular and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So all of that being said, yeah, I would say that Angry Video Game Nerd the most, to some extent Nostalgia Critic, because seeing them make content inspired me to try my own hand at it and be successful at it. But my humor, again, comes from like Howard Stern, South Park, Mel Brooks, that irreverent kind of 80s, 90s style humor where it's everything, it's risque. You push the boundaries, and that's how I was in those earlier years on YouTube, right? Oh yeah, all those comedians, all those classic comedians from the 80s and 90s. I've told you guys that Ghostbusters is my favorite comedy movie of all time, right? But all that stuff from that age, that time, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Uncle Buck, amazing movies, right? Like super good. So it's funny, and the talent that came out of the comedians, you could tell that those movies were ad-libbed half the time. Probably half that shit wasn't even written. They just fucking did stuff on the fly. They even said half of Ghostbusters 1 was improv. Like they were just riffing and having the best absolute time. And you can't, that's like lightning in a can, right? You can't recreate that. It happens. It's synergy. And that's the kind of stuff you watch those 80s comedies, and you can see that kind of stuff happening all the time. And I grew up with that shit. Sure, Airplane. Absolutely. Airplane, super funny movie. Ultra parody movie, right? Those ultra parody movies that used to come out back in the day, those shits were so funny. But today it's like, oh, that's so offensive. Cancel. It's like, no, people understood it was a joke back then. No one got pissed off at that shit, right? Is Cat interested in playing the South Park game in March? Not really. Did you see it? It's not just look that good of a game. Once again, they went to online co-op, literally just running around snowball fights. It's nothing like the RPG. No coherent story. Nothing really like that at all. So it doesn't look very good in my opinion. I don't think I'm playing it either. It doesn't look very good. So. George Carlin also, I agree. Here's the thing. Like, I became a fan of George Carlin late. Like, I knew of George Carlin because he played Rufus in Bill and Ted, right? And then later on, as I became an adult, I became more aware of George Carlin and the comedy that he had done earlier, right? And then I would watch some of his stand-up or see some of his stuff like, oh my God, like, this guy was smart but funny at the same time. And you can respect that kind of talent, right? So yeah, absolutely, George Carlin, great comedian, and I would say even a great thinker to some extent as well. It's weird how sometimes philosophy can be tied in with comedy, right? Kathleen, have a good night. You know George Carlin from the Thomas the Tank series? I didn't know he was in Thomas the Tank, but okay. There you go. Do I like Huey Lewis in the News? The only thing I know of them is the band who did a couple songs for Back to the Future. That's the music I know of them. I like that music from Back to the Future, but that's all I know. So. I've never heard of that person. I'm Resolution. Matthew says his later years, again, I guess he's talking about George Carlin. His later years as a comedian vastly contrasted his younger days. I'd love to see you react to his stuff. I would love to watch his stuff. The problem is, probably wouldn't be allowed. All that shit is like owned by corporations, right? Like all his stand-up specials and everything. He's gone, which sucks. And now, you know, the rights get divvied out to this company, this, that. So who even knows who owns the rights to shit? Good luck trying to fucking watch that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna, I'm gonna watch a George Carlin stand-up. Fucking claimed 17 times, blocked by 17 companies. It sucks. Seems like stand-up comedy, it's a rampant thing. You can't watch anyone's stand-up comedy on YouTube and react to it. It all gets fucking blocked. So, we guys, just so you know, we're heading on almost into the end of the second hour here. So, I could definitely tell the questions are dying down now. So, if anyone has anything last minute they want to ask, any last minute topics, thanks to those who contributed, any last minute contributions, anything like that, probably we'll give it another 10, 15 minutes tops, and then we'll be out of here for the night, because I've just talked almost 2 straight hours. I definitely could give my voice a break. Yes, I saw Face Off with Nicolas Cage and John Travolta in the 90s. I saw it in the theaters with my dad. Great movie. It's definitely a 90s movie, meaning today it probably wouldn't work, but for the time it was absolutely, awesome summer popcorn flick action movie with ridiculous premise that never would really be realistic, but was funny to watch in the theaters back then. No, I've never actually been to a stand-up comedy show in person. No, never. Trey, maybe one day I will play Persona 3 Reload. We'll see. I still don't know if it's safe to record or broadcast. It's just not the time for another RPG right now. That's another thing that's just lost to time. Like those action comedy style movies from the 1990s, right? Yes, they were mostly action. They had adult stuff, but there was funny parts in them too. They don't exist anymore. We will never see another big action star. Honestly, if you think The Rock is an action star, you didn't see real action stars of the 80s and 90s. You just don't understand again, Nicolas Cage, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? These big, giant profile, Bruce Willis, right? The giant profile action stars of that time were so different. You could never have one of them today. The Rock is nothing like them, really. He's just nothing like them at all. Chuck Norris, I don't know to some extent, but Chuck Norris was like he was earlier than that. We're talking like 90s-ish, right? I didn't even know there was a new Earth Defense Force game dropping. I had no clue. Do I prefer modern or classic Sonic more? I mean, you're talking to someone who played the living shit out of Sonic 2. Like, it was my favorite Genesis game, and I probably played it like 400 times because it's such a good game, But at the same time, I respect what they do with some modern Sonics, like Sonic Frontiers. It made sense what they were doing. That was a good first step towards a great modern Sonic game, and I hope that continues to advance and get better. I like both, but I mean, I think the classics overall have been better than anything modern they've done, in the last many, many years. Yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Say what you'll say about Jean-Claude Van Damme. A lot of people said he was horrible to work with. He was an asshole. He was always on drugs. But his movies are entertaining. It was a different era back then. It really was. And today, you don't even have those anymore. We're going to have an action movie. Who are we going to put in it? Kevin Hart. What? Are you fucking an idiot? Kevin Hart? You think he's going to be a believable action guy in this fucking movie? Are you stupid? Right? So what do people see? Fast and the Furious 27. It's not even a movie. At this point, it's not even a movie. It's a meme. Right? Oh, man. Do I miss the old days of arcades back in Connecticut? It's not that I miss them. I just feel like they were such an anomaly. And sadly, I hate to say it, there were no cameras back then. No one was walking into an arcade with a big video camera to record the experience and show to everyone what it was like. And because of that, I feel like a lot of that era has been lost. Like, it was a very unique time to live. I would love if one day someone did a big documentary about the arcade days And I would absolutely love to contribute to a documentary like that and relay many of the stories that I've had, because I lived in arcades. Like, literally, the entire 90s. That was my free time, was I was in arcades all over the place. Not just in Connecticut, but all over the country playing Street Fighter. And I would love to share stories and reminiscing about those times, because it's not documented. But I will say this. For anyone out there who has tapes of those days, because I know there was one or two people, I'm not going to say names, so there's no online harassment of them or whatever. There were one or two people who would actually infamously travel around to Street Fighter tournaments, and they would record with a camcorder. And at the time, everyone was like, that's weird. Why would someone do that? Now you think back, you're like, dude, if they had access to that, do you understand the wealth, the insane wealth of knowledge, the insane library, that people would eat that shit up to see footage, documentary footage of old arcades, old tournaments, actual competitive play from that era to see what it was like, right? It doesn't exist at all. It's just, the technology wasn't there to do it. So no one had, the documents were posting online the results. That was it. And you just had to be there to see the matches, right? It's pretty different. It's so crazy to think about that, because now we're in the digital age. Everything is instantly on the internet fully, right? Absolutely. RAC, you have a good night. Oh, yeah? Anso Kumar says, I grew up in New York. I actually went to Chinatown Fair arcade as well. I remember getting to play Blaze Blue there before it hit consoles. See, that was way after my time. You're talking Blaze Blue, that's like way after the time that I was regularly going to arcades, but that's cool that you got some of that experience too. I was there before you. You know, I was in the 90s, early 2000s. Slayer says, I think Keanu Reeves, Frank Martin, I don't know who Frank Martin is, and Liam Neeson do good action movies for modern times. Yeah, but again, it's still not that, like, you compare Keanu Reeves, and I'm not knocking Keanu Reeves. I've seen some of the John Wick movies, and they're great. But compare Keanu Reeves in John Wick to, like, the larger-than-life stars that were Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Dolph Lundgren, Jean-Claude Van Damme, right? Those giant personalities. And then after that was Nicolas Cage and stuff like that. It was just a different era. I mean, Keanu Reeves does John Wick, and then every once in a while does another role, and that was it. Like, that's it. I mean, imagine if he was in 20, 30 of these movies over a 5-year span like these guys were, right? Wesley Snipes, yeah, to some extent. Not as big, though. Wesley Snipes was very popular in the late 90s, but not as a big of a star. Matthew says, I really enjoyed this tonight. I'm glad I had a chance to swing by. Hope you do this again soon. Have a good night. Thanks, Matthew. Have a good night. No one from no one from Indian DSP has reached out to me. For those who don't know, there is an Indian musician who also goes by DSP, and they were prominent for a while before I ever was a YouTuber. And so when I started posting videos on YouTube, there was crossover where you would search for DSP and you would get them instead of me, or you would get me instead of them. And it was weird, because I get the feeling people would actually go talk to him about me, and I would get messages intended for him, and some of his traffic would come to mine. It was very odd, the way that happened, because there's no crossover. Like, India versus the United States, there's very little crossover there. Like, I have no knowledge of Indian music or Indian film stars, but in India, they're like the biggest shit. They know their stuff better than American stuff, right? So, it was pretty interesting at that time. Now, obviously, I have no idea if that guy's still prominent. I'm definitely not anywhere near as prominent as I ever was, so I'm sure there really is no crossover anymore, right? All right, so last opportunity. I'll say last, final questions here. If anyone has some, you want to toss them my way. And last chance, because I'll probably stick around for another 5 minutes or so until we wrap it up here for tonight. And for the record, I had a great time here. All right. Let's see here. I'm just double checking something. Okay. Yeah, I had a great time here, relaxing with all of you tonight. I'm not saying this is something that we should do frequently, but every once in a while, if people just want to have a late night hangout session like this, I'm okay with it. But as you can tell, now that we're getting to like the final half hour, you notice the questions really slowed down. There wasn't as much to talk about. You get some people who are like repeating troll questions in the chat over and over, and it's like, what? You know what I mean? But I had a good time just relaxing with all of you, and I hope that you enjoyed it. People watching this on demand, by all means, leave comments on the video about what you think about the topics discussed. I'm open to having that kind of discussion too after the fact. You know, that's stuff that we can always talk about on a podcast in the future. But this was a cool anomaly to do a late night stream like this where there was nothing else going on and it was supposed to be something else. It didn't work out. So instead we did this in place. I think it was a nice thing to do to just relax, right? I'm aware of Road Rash. I'm sure I played it at one point, but I never really owned a Road Rash game or got into them tuna. No. All right. I'll give it one more minute here, and if nothing really pops in here for questions, I think we'll call it a night. This is what always happens, though. Like, so you start a Q&A night with a bunch of questions, right? And you talk about various different topics, and it starts hot. Everyone has these hot topics. But then once you get through the night, by the end of the night, it dies down. This is exactly what happened when Kat was coming on streams in January. The first night, everyone had interesting Q&A for her because she hadn't been on streams in 5 years. Second Q&A stream, first hour was all right. And the second hour was like, everyone's like, what are these questions? Like, it's just, they start being intrusive, silly, stupid. It's like, well, I'm not going to answer that, right? So that's what happens. You know, you run out of time. 2 hours is probably like the perfect sweet spot. And then it's like, all right, enough of this, right? Would I ever do a wrestling pay-per-view review? I don't watch wrestling. I keep telling people this. I don't watch wrestling. I haven't seen a single wrestling match since 2020. That was the last time I saw a wrestling match. 4 years ago. I have no intention of watching wrestling any further in my life, so the answer is no. All right. Just going to go ahead and ban these people repeating the same questions over and over, which are troll questions. So, okay. All right. So, everyone who was here tonight, thank you. Vietnamese Comrade, thanks for your questions. Everyone who was here tonight, thanks for chilling. Thank you for your questions. I really do appreciate everyone hanging out and having a good time with me here who was here. Really, it was a good time. And to those who did support tonight as well, thank you very much for that. Yeah, everything was, I had a good time in general. Is there something I want to do all the time? No. Is there something I want to do every once in a while if there's something different and you want to break stuff up? Sure. But it also has to have a time to do it. Like, it made sense to do it tonight. We were supposed to do something else, so it made sense to just do this on the fly. Honestly, I think this got a lot more attention tonight than it would have if I played Tekken, right? And that's good, I guess. But at the same time, I would have very much also enjoyed to play Tekken, right? Slayer says Frank Martin is the main actor in Transporter, Expendables, Meg 1, and Meg 2. You mean Jason Statham? You call him Frank Martin? We call him Jason Statham here in the States. Does he have a different name in your country? I wouldn't be surprised because a lot of these guys have stage names, right? That's interesting, right? Did you get the name confused? I think so. Yeah, that's Jason Statham you're talking about. Okay. All right, everybody. It's time to call it a night. Thank you again. And again, if you watch this on demand after the fact, please leave some comments on the topics talked about. I would love to hear your opinions on the topics that we talked about. Oh, Frank Martin is his name in the Transporter film, so he actually is using the character's name in the movies. Oh, I see. That makes sense. I don't remember the names from the movies. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. And for those watching on demand, thanks for watching as well. Hope you had a good time. And see you soon. In fact, I'll see you all in the morning for the Level 1 podcast where we're going to be talking about all kinds of game stuff with this Nintendo Direct and Elden Ring DLC announcement and all that. It'll be a good time. Have a good night, everyone. Peace out.